My name is Richard Smiley. I was born October 2nd, 1948. I was born in Selma, Alabama. But growing up in Selma, I was there. I was born there. I ended up going to a all-black school. I experienced we had to go to an all-black bookstore. We go into the bookstore, we know that the black books was on the right side and the white books on the left side, and we dared not to go on the left side. The colored bathrooms and the white bathrooms, water fountains, colored water fountains and white water fountains. You go downtown, you won't see any black employees in the retail, the stores. No black was working in the stores. You wasn't able to go to the lunch counters. The bus station was segregated. You had to sit in a different part of the bus station. You ate you had to get food from another part. You couldn't get it in the regular part of the bus station. So that was the basic experience that I came up. And, I came up, I was taught that whites was better than me, and I was inferior to them. And, I heard that all my life. It become a way of life. That's just the way it is. And you doesn't challenge that. Your parents made sure you didn't challenge that. You're gonna say yes sir and yes ma'am to white peoples, and it's just a way of life. I remember one occasion that we lived out in the country, and there was a white family living there, just as poor as we were, and we used to share food, and my mama used to give her a little piece of meat for greens, but we used to go up there, and they had some kids. One was a white female daughter, and we used to play together. We didn't know, we didn't think anything. We would just play. But when I got home, my mama said, "Don't you play with that white girl no more." So, that was the kind of environment that I was raised up in. It was just the way it was. Yes, I ended up they would bus us far out from the city. I attended a school that was in a house. There was a 3-room house. They had a number of grades in the front, they had a number of grades in the middle, then they had some more grades on the back. We had to go out and cut wood to make our fire to stay warm. The water that we had was, we had to pump our own water. So that was the first part of my life, and then I ended up moving into town, and ended up going to school there, and but it was all black. Then I ended up going to a black high school, and that's where I went there for a few years, and that's when the civil rights movement sort of had come to Selma, about 1961, 62. And that's when they started mobilizing and marching. We started out sitting in restaurants, and we would picket stores that didn't have black employees, and we end up, going to jail. We'd go down there and they would put us in jail, and we did that every day. Some days when they arrest us and put us on a school bus, they had cattle prods, and they would tighten up. They would put as many people on that school bus as possible. A lot of times I went to jail that my feet didn't touch the floor until I got to the jail. But this was the kind of things we did every day. And what we would do is have the adults to go down and try to register to vote, knowing that they was going to go to jail and get beat. So the youth would stay at the church until the adults is arrested. Then once they're arrested, then we would start marching, because we wanted to fill up the jails. We wanted to put pressure on them that they would have to put us somewhere. They would have to feed us and things of that nature. So we filled the jails. And they would take us to the state prison. It was named Camp Selma. And they would take us out to that prison. And the prison had no beds, had a cement floor. We had one tub of water and one dipper and one toilet. And they would put us in there. And they had the males and the females. So one night we was at Camp Selma, and they brought us all out, and they made us, the males and females made us line up and put our chin on each other's back. But they had a large heater, and that heater, they built a fire in that heater that it would look like the heater was gonna melt. And it got so hot in there, a lot of people started falling out and just blanking out. And what you do when one blank out, they'll drag them back in those cold jail cells on the floor. So a lot of people caught pneumonia. I had one incident that when they brought us to the jail and they made me stand aside. They said, "You wait." Everyone else went in the jail cell except me. And because I used to talk a lot, I used to mess with them a lot. And I had a red cap on this day because it was easy for them to identify me. So they pulled me off the bus. I was the last one to go in. So what they did, they was going to teach me a lesson. One shot me with a 12-volt caliper, and the other one struck me with a 6-volt. Then in the back of my eye, I saw a guy coming at me with a chair handle, a piece of a chair, and I started running. So the guys in the jail cell had made a cushion for me. So when I got to the jail cell, I just dived in there, and they caught me, but I felt the deputy foot went by my behind. So those are the kind of experiences that we used to go through every day. But it was a way of life. When I started out, I was living in a foster home because it was a break when I was a kid that my mother carried me to Bradenton, Florida. And we had some issues, didn't get along, and today we would call it abuse. And I ran away from home. And I had a probation officer, which was a white guy, very nice. And he understood what was happening. So when they arrested me, after the police had sort of threw me from one wall to the other, and he told him, "Hold it, just bring him down to me." So the probation officer locked me up. He carried me up to the cell and locked me up. Then about a few days later, he persuaded my mama to let me go to Selma because he had asked me what I wanted to do. So I ended up going to Selma. And what happened, I ended up going living with my sister. And we didn't get along. My sister, we had some issues. And I still wasn't in school, so I ended up going to the welfare department and said, "Look, I want to go to school, I need a place to stay." So they placed me in a foster home, which was a very nice foster home. The foster mama, she loved me like she loved her own kids. She had 2 kids on her own and a few more foster kids. So I ended up there. And that's basically where they used to have meetings when 1961, when they first came, they used to have meetings with my foster sister because they couldn't meet in Selma. It was illegal for a group of blacks to meet in Selma. So they hid out and met at different people's houses. And I used to sit back and listen to what they was talking about in the meeting. But I was committed. When I was a kid, I just couldn't stand to see people treated different. It was something in my system. I don't know why it was in there, but it's always bothered me to see someone treated different. So, my foster brother and we end up, going to hear Dr. King speak, Lafayette, James Bevel. We used to go to the mass meetings, and they used to organize and encourage us to march, and we used to be there marching every day. But what happened was, after marching every day and going to jail, my social worker observed me marching and knew that I wasn't in school, so she started calling me in the office, and and telling me I can't be out there marching, I have to go to school and things of that nature. But I heard her, but I didn't hear her. So I kept on marching, and going to jail. So they heard the talk that it was going to be a 7 in Montgomery March. It wasn't a date on it, they just knew it was going to be a 7 in Montgomery March. But during this time that a young black man in Marion, Alabama got beat down and shot by the state trooper. So, you know, Dr. King came to see him and spoke, and we up to date on the 7 of Montgomery March. So my social worker called me in the office and told me that if I marched from 7 to Montgomery, she would have to kick me out of my foster home. And I told her, she's, you know, and one of the things that I knew about that lady, she had compassion, but I knew she had a job to do. You know, she had to do what she had to do. So I told her that I understand that she had a job to do, but I had a moral obligation to walk from Selma to Montgomery. But she didn't stop there. They sent me to a psychiatrist. Met with psychiatrists. I had to go through all these ink block tests and all this stuff. But at the end, the psychiatrist told me, he said, man, nothing wrong with you. You need to go out there and continue to fight for your people. So at that time, I said, will you help me? I didn't get a good response about that. Because during that time, even if he understood even if he agreed with me, he knew that it would have been danger for him as a white person to speak out or support the flight that we were trying. But we end up on March the 7th, 1965, that the march, it was called Bloody Sunday. We marched from Brown Chapel Church, and we got to the, by the way, the day that we marched, it was cold, it was overcast. And so in order to prepare for it, I put on an extra pair of pajamas and put candy all in my pajama leg because I didn't know what we were going to have to eat. If we went to jail, you know, I didn't want to eat that food because one time I was in jail, they served cornbread with worms in it, and the syrup was so hard and the biscuit was so hard you could break windows. So I was preparing that candy will hold me for a while. But we got to the bridge, we didn't really know what to expect. Before we got to the bridge, we saw about 150 white male posses with guns that the only qualification they had was to hate blacks. And, you know, we said, okay, well, we was getting nervous. I was about the 14th or the 15th person in the line. I don't know how I got up that close, but it was close. And we got to the bridge, and we looked over the bridge, and we saw about 150 or 200 state troopers. And they, Jose Williams, John Lewis, and Albert Turner, Bob Mack, and they were the leaders of this march. So we got to the bridge, we crossed the bridge, we got to the point where the state trooper was, and they said this march is illegal, that you can't go any further. So Jose Williams said, sir, can we kneel and pray? Once they kneeled and started praying, the police, and they attacked us with billy clubs, tear gas. They had their little tear gas, they tear gas, they beat us down, and they beat us back across the bridge and tear gas. I didn't get hit with the billy clubs, I got tear gas. And they beat us back across the bridge. And once we got back across the bridge, the posse, that 150 men on horses, started beating us all the way back to the church. That was the first attempt of the 7 of Montgomery March, which was called Bloody Sunday. But after that, you know, Dr. King he wasn't in town, but he flew in right after that, after we got beat back to the church. And I remember him telling us that, don't worry, that your soul is in Montgomery, even though your body is here. So it gave us a little encouragement because it was a little tense during that time. We didn't know what was happening. And we know a lot of people got beat, went to the hospital. So he had to calm the tension down. But around the world, this was all on TV, and people around the world saw how a group of people were beat down in Selma, Alabama like dogs and cats, and they couldn't understand how could this happen in America, free America, how could this happen? And Dr. King invited the world to come to Selma. And people from all over the world came to Selma, and we attempted, a week later, we attempted the second march. And what we marched across the bridge with all the dignitaries and all that. So the police told us that we couldn't march, but they didn't beat us. We turned around, went back to the church. About a week or so later, the Supreme Court said we had a right to march. So March the 21st, we started out walking from Selma to Montgomery. They had they federalized not the Coast Guard, but they federalized these policemen to protect us on the way. Now these were really local people, but they had to go by the law, so they protected us. They didn't particularly love us, but they had to protect us. So we started out the march, and after we started out, we would walk about 12 to 15 miles a day, because we had some older peoples with us. So we would stay in tents. One tent we stayed in that the Ku Klux Klan had got dynamite in it, automatic weapons. If it hadn't been for undercover FBI agent, we probably all wouldn't, been dead. But we marched on. It was they had to check even the pavement. They was burying dynamite under the pavement, so the FBI had to go and check that pavement, in order for us to be safe. The communities, as we walked through the communities, they fed us. They brought us tubs of chicken, and they fed us on the way. And so took us about 5 days. We got to Montgomery, and Dr. King's speech was "How long, not long." That was his speech at the end of the 7th of Montgomery. After that, I got back to Selma. A social worker didn't I. My stuff was on the porch. So at that point, I became homeless. I stayed with stayed in some churches and stuff of that nature. And but I was still trying to register people to vote. So SCLC staff saw that I was still working, so they put me on staff because I was sleeping in the SCLC office. And during this time, I had dropped out of high school, and I would never go out when students were going to school. And I would wait till after they go to school, and I would always be in when school is out, because everyone didn't understand my commitment and what I believed in. So eventually, I ended up going to Atlanta, and that's why I was introduced to the Scope Project. I ended up, traveling around after the training. Jose Williams would assign scope workers to various parts of the country, and but normally he would try to have a full-time SCLC staff member to be with the scope workers, because the scope was 500 white students came to the South to do voter registration. We knew that, Dr. King knew that if we brought white students to the South to do voter registration, it would have more of a psychological effect on trying to register black folks. But it did work. It did work that we registered, I can't remember, we registered a lot of people over the South, whatever city or county that was assigned to. But one assignment that I did have with a scope worker, her name was Pat Lancaster, and we and Jackie Smith and Evelyn Williams, they assigned us to a town called Dawson, Georgia, which is in Terry County, Georgia. We used to call it Turbo Terry because when we first went there, they was killing a black every weekend. But even before that, you know, I was assigned to the Meriton March. The March against fear after James Meriton had got shot. They asked Dr. King to come in to help complete that march. So I ended up going to Mississippi. I remember that when we went to Mississippi, it was a frightening thing. We were driving, we had the radio on, but when we got to the Mississippi line, we cut that radio off. We didn't want to disturb nobody. But we got on the march. That, you know, that was a experience. One occasion that Dr. King was speaking, but staff had to go out and organize the community. And I was by myself, and I was leading this march. And police came and said, "You can't march." I said, "We will march to the courthouse." And now I was really nervous. Here I am confronting these police by myself, the only staff person there. But eventually they let us march, and people led to Dr. King's rally downtown at the courthouse. But even during the Mississippi March, we would, you know, early in the morning we'd wake up and say, "What you want now? Freedom now? What you want now? Freedom now?" But one morning we woke up and said, "What you want now? Black power." And that was carried all over the country. And it's a guy named Willie Ricks. I know some places in history they say Stokely Carmichael and stuff, but Willie Ricks, the one started Black Power, the slogan Black Power. So that created a lot of confusion. With the local organization, SLC, CORE, it was a challenge because Dr. King was about nonviolence, you know, and it sort of changed it was a challenge in terms of holding on to freedom now. So another experience on that Mississippi March that we marched into Greenwood, Mississippi. At a school, we was gonna put up a tent and we gonna stay there. So here come the policemen. I mean, they marched in and we said, "Wow, we're gonna have all kinds of protection tonight." But as soon as they marched in, they started shooting tear gas. Stokely, Dr. King, and they was on top of a truck speaking. And the tear gas was so strong, they fell off the truck. They had to go to the hospital. And I remember that there was a lady that fell in front of me. And I was trying to get to her, and I just couldn't get to her. And then I had to turn around. I just ran in somebody's house and started washing my face and my eyes and things of that nature. So that, you know, those were some of the experience that we had on the Mississippi March. But I learned that it's important to stand up for what you believe. And you have to, it's not just about belief, that you got to be willing to die for it. That I believe in this so much. I believed in that. It was a commitment to me to work on everyone having justice in this society. Even at the age I was, by the way, I was about 16. Even at the age I was, it became a part of my life. This is what I was all about. And as I look back, even when I was a kid, I used to still, this is what I believed in. And always share with young people. Stand up for what you believe in. If you believe in it, it doesn't matter what anyone else believes. You stand up for what you believe in, whether you talked about, whether you criticize, something that you should be willing to give your life. And that's one of the things we don't teach, compassion and all that stuff in schools today. It's all about me, but it's about everyone else. And just want to share that I was a high school dropout, but after Dawson, Georgia, there was a young man that had been teaching me how to take pictures. His name Bob Fitch had been teaching me how to take pictures. So he asked me did I want to go back to high school. I said, yeah, I want to go back to high school. Um, and I said, but not in Selma. They want to go back there. They want to go back to Selma to go to school. So he had a friend in Los Angeles, California. He said, I'm going to call my friend. It's a private school. And see what he said. So he called us, the headmaster, Mr. Mungman, came to Georgia, interviewed me in Atlanta Greyhound bus station. He said, I'll get back with you. And a few weeks later, he said, I talked to my staff and they're willing to bring me in. And so I got a bus ticket. Ended up going to Los Angeles, California. That's in Santa Barbara County. So I ended up going to the school. It was 71 boys. 3 looked like me. From an economic standpoint, none of them looked like me. So it was a challenge. First challenge I've been taught all my life that white people were smaller than I am with 71 boys. You know, it's a challenge. One of the experiences I had when I got to the school, you know, the students asked me, did I have a pink Cadillac? You know, it was a saying that all blacks had pink Cadillac. You know, and I would tell them I only have a bicycle. But with that type of atmosphere, we had to walk into town to buy supplies and things of that nature. So the white business instructor called the headmaster and said, keep them ends out of town, you're messing up our business. So at that point, headmaster called me in his office and said, you can't go in town by yourself no more. But I had a great class. I was in a great class. You know, even though we might not understood each other, but they supported my cause. It would be on Bloody Sunday, March the 7th, 1965. It looked like where we were beat down and people laying on the ground and tear gas. They got a picture of me in the tear gas, and it represents what we had to go through for the right to vote. There was lives given, people were beat, people was killed, the blood was shed for the right to vote.